Passage 1 is adapted from Danny Lewis. After decades of decline, tiger populations could be on the rise. Passage 2 is adapted from Carent, The Trouble with Tiger Numbers. Passage 1. After years of hard work by conservationists throughout Asia, a new study brings good news for the world's wild tigers. According to a new report by the WWF, the number of tigers living in the wild may have been slowly rising over the last several years. If continued surveys prove this to be true, this would mark the first time in more than a century that tiger populations have grown. In a study compiling surveys taken across Asia, researchers at the WWF found that there are at least 3890 tigers living in the wild today, a considerable increase from the 3200 recorded in 2010. The study suggests that the commitment to and success of conservation programs in some countries have contributed to the overall growth of the global tiger population. It's a positive trend. Jeanette Hemley, the WWF Senior Vice President of Wildlife Conservation, says we are cautiously hopeful. Counting wild tigers, however, isn't easy. While tens of thousands of tigers once roamed Asia from Turkey to Indonesia, their habitats have become tiny and scattered during the last century. Wild tigers are notoriously elusive, preferring to hide out in hard-to-reach places in jungle undergrowth and high mountains. Combined with their low numbers, these factors can make them difficult to keep track of, which can leave some uncertainty as to whether the populations are truly on the rise. The increased numbers may in part reflect better surveying methods. Additionally, while the global number of wild tigers appears to have gone up, a country-by-country analysis is more sobering, though several countries, including India, Nepal, Bhutan, and Russia, may have gone up in recent years. Others have seen tigers disappear thanks to poaching and habitat loss. Okay, as used in line 17, positive most nearly means it's a positive trend. We are cautiously hopeful. So it's a favorable trend, right? Something that moves in the plus direction. Emphatic comes from emphasis, so that doesn't fit the context. Specific and reliable also don't fit the context here. According to passage 1, counting wild tigers is difficult because tigers move extremely quickly from one location to another, reside in environments that are relatively inaccessible to humans, bear a superficial resemblance to other related species, exhibit behavior that is potentially threatening to humans. So this would be B. This is given here, that they are notoriously elusive, preferring to hide out in hard-to-reach places in jungle undergrowth and high mountains. So their habitats, the places that they stay at, are relatively inaccessible to humans. Based on passage 1, what is one factor that may have contributed to the rise in the reported global tiger populations? Photographic technology has improved in its ability to detect animals in remote environments. Recent measurement techniques used to count animals are more accurate than those used in the past. Scientists' understanding of the typical growth rate for population of endangered species has improved. Wildlife conservation strategies are more uniform from country to country than they once were. So this should be B, because we do talk about combined with their low numbers. Where was that? Yeah, the increased numbers may in part reflect better surveying methods. So it's possible that surveying methods have improved and so the numbers have gone up. So that is line 30 to 31, right? Option C. According to passage 2, okay, so let's go back and read the second passage. Photographic capture, recapture, and large-scale occupancy modeling are now used to estimate tiger numbers and range in several countries across Asia. Scientists who study other elusive carnivores with unique body markings, including African wild dogs and wolverines, are also employing these approaches. Yet, on the whole, although the science of tiger population assessment has rapidly progressed. Its adoption by government and non-government conservation agencies has not, whether because of a lack of understanding or comfort with the new methods or because the old methods cast a more flattering light on their efforts. A recent example illustrates just how insidious reliance on outdated tools is. In April, the WWF and the Global Tiger Forum announced to great fanfare that the planet's wild tiger population was at last on the rise, numbering 3890 individuals. These groups aim to increase the numbers to 6,000 by 2022, but their tally, based on official estimates, relied on flawed methodologies, including the use of statistically weak extrapolations from tiger photographs and field counts of spoor. What is spoor? It's animal droppings. Okay, so we are looking at photographic capture and their goal for population growth far exceeds what one would expect to realize on the basis of studies carried out using more rigorous techniques. Furthermore, apart from the increase in tigers in a few reserves in India and Thailand, there are no convincing data to show that populations are recovering in the rest of Southeast Asia or Russia. Indeed, countries like Cambodia, Vietnam, and China have lost their viable tiger populations in recent years, losses masked by any single global tiger number. Speculative tiger numbers for countries and regions undermine efforts to save tigers by distracting conservationists and the public from what should be our top priority, guarding and growing the source populations. Animals located in areas with suitable conditions for reproduction. In a way, the overall number of wild tigers, if we could even get an accurate count, may not matter. The source populations are the ones we need to monitor vigilantly, using the best science available to track their numbers. Only with reliable counts can we set realistic goals for future growth, develop suitable strategies for meeting those goals, and measure the impact of our conservation efforts. History shows that scientific progress can stall from lack of understanding, institutional inertia, and political considerations for decades or even centuries. But as the world enters into the sixth mass extinction of wild species, we simply cannot afford to divorce conservation practices from sound science if we are to have any hope of saving a wildlife icon like the majestic tiger. Okay, according to passage 2, the wild tiger population estimate offered by the WWF may be flawed, as a result of which factor? Generalization from a selection of evidence that is likely incomplete, limitation to data that are more relevant in certain countries than in others, reliance on a new experimental tool that has not been thoroughly tested, assumption of stability in population growth over time that is not supported by data. So we can definitely eliminate B and C because it's not about, oh wait, let me just go back and read that part. Reliance on outdated tools is what he's worried about, right? These groups, but their tally based on official estimates relied on flawed methodologies, including the use of statistically weak extrapolations, right? So yeah, it was not about, relevance in a particular country or new experimental tool. Assumption of stability in population growth over time that is not supported by data. Generalization, yeah, so it's not D also, it's A, because they are generalization from a selection of evidence which is not complete, right? They are extrapolating. That's what he's saying here, that their tally relied on flawed methodology, including the use of statistically weak extrapolation. So the data is incomplete. As used in 62, realized most nearly means 62. Okay. Their goal for population growth far exceeds what one would expect to realize on the basis of studies carried out using more rigorous techniques. So, obtain, right? One would obtain the numbers that one would realize, the numbers that one would obtain. To comprehend is to understand, so that doesn't make sense. Perfect and create, these don't fit the context. Which choice best states the relationship between the two passages? Passage 2 compares and critiques the conservation solutions recommended in Passage 1. Passage 2 questions the professional credibility of the scientist profile in Passage 1. Passage 2 suggests several applications of the conclusions reached in Passage 1. Passage 2 challenges the reliability of research results discussed in Passage 1. So it's D, right? Because um, Passage 1 is presenting the data, right? And it's not really questioning the data in a major way, while the second passage is saying that this data is not reliable because it is based on outdated techniques. Right? It's not comparing and critiquing the conservation solutions. So it's not A. It's definitely not questioning the credibility of the scientists or suggesting applications of the conclusions. It can reasonably be inferred from the passages that their authors would both agree that wild tiger population sizes are recovering more fully in certain countries than in others, beginning to return to the levels recorded in 2010, responding predictably to aggressive conservation attempts, declining steadily despite continual human intervention. So this is A, right? Both of them agree that the growth is differential based on the country. Yeah, several countries have shown increases. Others have seen tigers disappear. So the first guy agrees with that, and the second one also says, apart from the increases in India and Thailand, there are no convincing data to show that populations are recovering elsewhere. So country-wise, there is a difference which both agree with. The author of passage 2 would most likely respond to the conclusion in the first paragraph of passage 1 by asserting that such claims. Okay, so what is the conclusion? After years of hard work, a new study brings good news. The number of tigers may have been slowly rising. If continued surveys prove this to be true, this is the first time that tiger populations have grown. So the first paragraph is kind of cherry on this note, but the second passage we know would be circumspect. But that such claims only apply to certain subspecies of tigers and are inconclusive, will offer incentive for countries and regions to invest further in preservation programs, prove that rigorous efforts to protect endangered species result in quick recovery, may lead people to believe that tigers are recovering when in fact they continue to require vigilant protection. So I'm leaning towards D because D is the only one that indicates that the second passage is doubtful about these numbers. Okay, now let's work with the line numbers 50. Let me open the file separately. Okay, so this is 52 to 55, 60 to 63. 52 to 55 and 60 to 63. 71 to 75, 79 to 82. 71 to 75 and 79 to 82. So we have to try and locate evidence for the fact that such cherry conclusions may lead people to believe that tigers are recovering when in fact they continue to require protection. Okay. So in April, the WWF and the Global Tiger Forum announced to great fanfare, and their goal for population growth far exceeds what one would expect to realize on the basis of studies carried out. Speculative tiger numbers for countries and regions undermined. Yes, so I like C because C actually says that if you have these positive numbers, they undermine efforts to save tigers by distracting conservationists. Only with reliable counts can we set realistic goals for future growth. Yeah, so basically, A and B are just reporting on the data, while D is talking about how that data is not reliable. But C is talking about how relying on this kind of data can lead to distraction, right? So C is a good answer. Okay, let's grade this. 21. 21. Yeah. D double B C A, D B B C A, and 26 B D A D C. B D A D C.